We finally quit. We finally quit. Why we ultimately quit our retire early life expat. We finally quit. We finally quit. Why we ultimately quit our retire early life expat. And so there's a couple of main ideas I wanted to talk about in this video. And one of the ideas is that you've got a couple different types of people that go abroad. You got the retiree, the Social Security thing, which the mainstream retirement press always starts using them as a pawn to build up traffic, but that's not what I'm going to talk about in this video, no worries. So you've got that side of it. And when I say Social Security, please understand, I am not Social Security, I'm Social Security, and I know I'm nearing that age, but when we've been abroad, I was even further away from it. And so when I say Social Security, I'm really talking about a budget. So I'm not necessarily talking about an age group. I mean, somebody could be 30 years old and retired off the stock market on a Social Security income. I mean, you know, they could be. So, and so it's somebody on small means, let's say, and then you've got people that have sold a really expensive property, and so they don't necessarily have, you know, an aptitude for business or anything. They just happen to have a huge sum of money from property sales or other assets. And you know, and then some people have both, and then you've got the business people and the digital nomads, the ones that work online, and they have a skill set, and so they command a pretty decent salary when you know, compared to foreign salaries in developing countries. You know, people with an actual skill. You know, and then you've got those that are retired that get a government type pension that is actually quite equal to or even more than the higher skilled digital nomad salary. So you've got that set too. So, but the bottom line, you can divide them into two just to make this video simple and say, well, you've got people that are on a Social Security budget, and then you've got people that are on the high five-figure monthly salaries. So mid to high five figures, and then you've got the Social Security. And so it occurs to me that the Social Security folks that are attracted to going abroad, which there's also a lot of really young people that have just now figured out, because you've got people that figure out how to get some kind of activity going that produces at least a very little amount, and maybe they're single and they don't need a whole lot of money, and so they right away they just pack their bags and they're gone, right? And because that's the beginning of freedom, being able to, you know, sprout your wings and fly away and go here, go there, and travel, right? But what happens is that we get wrapped up as the world, as this area of life evolves, and it has evolved over the last 20 years, quite a bit, over the last 15 years actually. I remember reading originally back in the mid-2000s, late 2000s, some of it early 2000s, the original nomads, you know, nomadic Matt and these people that were always constantly nomading, and it sounded fantastic. It sounded great, it sounded amazing, it sounded like a really amazing life. And of course what you're getting when you read those blogs was on all the wonderful glitzy parts of it, you know, and that's understood, and that's okay too. But as it evolves, it has evolved, and our understanding matures, and just based on experience. And you've seen us, if you've been on our channel, do things like travel outside of mainstream retirement circuit. We've done things like go to little villages. And we just shuddered. I mean, we just almost, oh my gosh, when the mainstream retirement press started telling people to go to villages, remember that in Europe? We were like, oh no. It's like we thought we had just figured out how to stay away from those crowds, and here they are telling people, because when you tell the general public to do things like that, it's like when they told them to go to mercados, to go local. The minute you tell the general public that's when you just put the last nail in the coffin of the viability of that idea, because the general public doesn't really have the experience and the know-how and the deep understanding of what it takes to really to do things in a proper manner. I mean, just showing up in a mercado isn't gonna cut it, and neither is just showing up in a village. I mean, you could be, you know, I mean, people overpay everywhere they go. It doesn't really matter where they go. I'm just saying that as things evolve and have evolved over the years, and we came to understand that even if somebody that understands that they want to do this on a small budget, and eventually when the crowds arrive, you're going to be pushed out. And it becomes a matter of, well, okay, well, we'll have to move further away, or we'll have to find another spot. And over the years, it just becomes this thing where you're just avoiding these crowds. And you can do that, and you can keep doing that. But a lot of people like to go. For example, I like Cuenca because Cuenca is likable. And it just so happens, though, that a lot of other people like Cuenca. And that, you know, while there wasn't really a lot of people going there the last a few years, just recently there's just more and more crowds going. And I just see what it's doing to the people there, and it's
getting promoted again.
It's getting promoted again, and it's just going through another cycle. So eventually people are going to start, the first batch are going to get pushed out again, the people on the Social Security budget. Which brings up this subject. So then, is going abroad then better for the six-figure retiree, or even entrepreneur, or just somebody that has more money? Well, yes and no, because in our experience, those with more money are even more picky. I mean, they're more demanding because they're used to having things be the way they want them, because that's what money does. It gives you the freedom to make choices that say, well, I don't like this, I like that, and even though it costs more, I don't care. That's what I want, and that's what I'm going to have. And when people get used to that, being able to make choices based on the fact that they have plenty of money, they may not realize it, and many people may realize it, but some may not realize it, that it causes one to become, let's just call it, more demanding. One demands more out of a thing. And that's the conundrum with going to a developing country and being demanding. I mean, the strangest, most outlandish ideas I've ever seen is for millionaires to go to the cheapest place to retire in the world. People that have more money can and frequently are more demanding. And what that does is, the demanding is just as in the example of the 2 cookie cutter houses and the one with the 9 slate tiles on the living room fetching 50% more rent. That's what I'm talking about. That's what demanding does. And even though people with more money can afford the higher prices, there is still going to be that lingering dissatisfaction that inevitably will rear its head, and people will start realizing that, you know, the honeymoon period is over, And yes, while it was cheaper than where I was from, and while I could still afford the rents and it was cheaper and I was just enjoying that, when the honeymoon period is over and their demanding doesn't get met, it turns out to just be another place that people end up leaving. So you've got two different types of people that leave. It's not just the people that can no longer afford it, it's also the people that have much more money, are much more demanding, and when they start getting their demands not met over a long period of time, dissatisfaction sets in, and all the usual suspects of reasons why they have to go back home. Like, well, gee whiz, I just found out I have family and grandkids, so I have to go home. Sorry about that. No, I'm not sorry about that. All right, well, I hope you got something out of that, and thank you for coming to our channel, and have a wonderful day.